So, good evening, everyone. So, today I'm going to present on ecology, power, and tribal survival, a comparative study of the Hungry Tide by Amitav Ghosh and A Dance of the Forest by Volsoenka. So, this is my academic information. Chapterization, that chapter 1 introduces the research by outlining the rational theoretical background, research problem, methodology, and structure of this study. Then chapter 2 reviews the theoretical framework and existing scholarship related to eco-criticism, post-colonial ecology, and environmental justice. And chapter 3 analyze Amitav Ghosh's The Hungry Tide, focusing on the ecological dynamics of the Sundarbans and the relationship between environmental governance and marginalized survival. Then chapter 4 further examines Volsoenka's Dance of the Forest, exploring how the play used symbolic ecological space to critique historical violence and political authority. And the last chapter presents the conclusion of the study by revisiting the research objectives, questions, hypotheses, while discussing the broader implications of the finding and suggesting direction for the future research. Then chapter 1 main context is how explores how environmental crisis in formerly colonized regions are deeply intertwined with historical structures of power, colonial exploitation, and social marginalization. Then theoretical frameworks works grounded in eco-criticism, post-colonial eco-criticism, and environmental justice. And there is one more perspective, which is the subaltern, utilize the Gayatri Spivak Chakrabarti's concept of subaltern to understand how marginalized and indigenous communities are subjected to epistemic violence and excluded from dominant environmental discourses. Then core focus is that bring both text, Amitav Ghosh's Hungry Tide and Volsoenka's Dance of the Forest, into comparative dialogue to examine post-colonial ecological crisis and alternative frameworks for survival. Then the hypothesis is that Amitav Ghosh's Hungry Tide and Volsoenka's A Dance of the Forest critically represent ecological crisis as outcome of colonial and post-colonial power structures, where the marginalization of indigenous and tribal communities led to environmental degradation. And further suggest this text further suggest that indigenous ecological knowledge system offer alternative sustainable way of coexistence that challenge dominant developmental and anthropocentric model for of environmental management. Then my research questions are that how do the Hungry Tide and A Dance of the Forest represent ecological crisis within colonial and post-colonial context? In what ways do structure of power, colonial, state, and developmental shape human environmental relationship in these both texts? And how are indigenous and tribal knowledge systems portrayed as alternative ecological frameworks in contrast to dominant scientific or developmental discourses? Then last one is how do the text depict tribal survival and resistance in the face of ecological destruction and political marginalization? Then with the research objectives, that to examine the representation of ecology and environmental crisis in the Hungry Tide and A Dance of the Forest through the lens of eco-criticism, post-colonial eco-criticism, and concept of subaltern. And second one is to analyze the relationship between power, colonial, post-colonial authority, and environmental exploitation, highlighting how ecological control becomes a tool of domination over marginalized communities. And third one is to explore the role of indigenous and tribal knowledge systems in the selected text of Ghosh and Soenka as forms of ecological wisdom that resist displacement, erasure, and homogenizing development. And last one is to comparatively evaluate how both texts articulate tribal survival and resistance, emphasizing cultural memory, ritual, and lived ecological practices as strategies of endurance. And there are literature reviews table. And there is a scholarship limitation that despite rich ecological themes, these texts are mostly studied separately within isolated national or cultural frameworks. And my research gap is that existing eco-critical theory rarely examines how different post-colonial literary traditions represent these concerns together. There is clear evidence of comparative eco-critical study analyzing how African ritual drama and Indian ecological fiction together portray ecology, power, and tribal survival. And this my dissertation bridges that gap by exploring how indigenous knowledge system act as alternatives to dominant development models. Then chapter 3 is ecology, power, and tribal survival. So first is the Sundarban as a political space. So in this novel, this Sundarban functions as both an ecological and a political space. It's a unstable tidal geography makes human life vulnerable, and apart this that government conservation policies further intensify these vulnerability, and local and then there is a state power versus local survival. So the local fishermen are sometimes treated as illegal poachers because conservation laws prioritize wildlife over human survival. And this shows this concept and Morijapi and ecological violence. So there was an incident that some people are migrated in Morijapi, evicted from Morijapi, and they faced some violence by the authority. Then subaltern voice and language, that this examines how Hungry Tide represent ecological knowledge and subaltern voice. And next one is the indigenous versus scientific knowledge. So here we can compare Fokir's indigenous knowledge and Pia's scientific, as she was marine biologist who went there to do survey on that dolphin. And ecology as a lived experience. So the cyclone scene demonstrate ecology as a lived experience, showing that survival in the Sundarbans depends not on mastering nature, but on the negotiating coexistence with the unpredictable forces. Then chapter 4 about forest power and ritual ecology. So first one is the forest as a ancestral archive. So in the a dance of the forest functions as an ancestral archive that reveals suppressed historical memories and cosmological governance. That this ritual of breaking of the soil, when a dead woman arrived in that place, there was a scene. So this brings forth spirit such as dead woman, exposing past injustice and interrupting national celebration. And then power and historical tyrant. So here, through the ritual and the reenactment of Mata Kharibu's court, so these dead men and dead woman died because of Mata Kharibu's power and his command. So this shows that authority is greater than political power, that societies must confront historical tyranny to archive true regeneration. And then the dead woman as a subaltern voice. So her plea to that for mortals, that will you take my case. This demands recognition for gendered and historical marginalized, exposing the failure of official post-colonial history. And then a ritual as a cultural survives though. So here Soinka also uses ritual performance such as the dance and reenactment to reveal hidden historical truths and resist linear nationalist narratives. And finally the half child and shows the suspended futurity. And it suggests that true regeneration cannot occur unless society confronts and acknowledge its past injustice. And lastly, in conclusion, that ecology and in the Hungry Tide and dance of the forest function as an active space shaped by power, memory, and marginalization rather than a passive background, while the Hungry Tide presents the Sundarban as a politically regulated ecological landscape where conservation policies and displacement expose environmental injustice, and A Dance of the Forest portrays the forest as a symbolic space that reveals a suppressed history and moral accountability. The comparative analysis shows that ecological crisis in a post-colonial context is closely linked with authority, inequality, and historical memory, while indigenous knowledge system offer important alternative perspective for a sustainable coexistence. So this is overall infograph of my presentation. Then bibliography. And thank you.
You are looking through this lens of colonial and post-colonialism also,
Yes,
and tribal knowledge systems also,
Yes.
that you are trying to look at it. One thing that you can concentrate in this tribal knowledge systems and this Western knowledge systems, this conflict. So in tribal knowledge systems, you will see as an example that that knowledge remains to somebody. Somebody is aware about that, but transference of that knowledge system becomes problematic.
Yes.
So the new generation find it difficult. So some old people are aware about some of the ecological dynamics, but it doesn't reach to other people. Whereas in Western knowledge systems, it so happens that it is made systematic in such a manner that everybody can learn that. So it reaches to more people, whereas that dies with the death of the people. So how you can deal with that idea?
Okay.
Tribal knowledge systems, how it transfers to the different generation people. What happens when the people does not remain exist? Then what happens to the knowledge? In India, for example, the Westerners lived, they left,
Yes.
but still the knowledge remained. So this idea about knowledge creation, knowledge sustenance, knowledge spreading in different generation, how it is seen in both the things, that if you can see,
Okay, sir.
it will add some more value to this comparative study. Okay?
Sir,
Hmm.
I have one confusion that there is one reference of eGyan Kosh study material which is provided by IGNOU. So how can I cite that?
No,
Is it correct? Or should
better
I
not
check?
to cite. It is a study material only still.
Okay.
So it will be prepared from other resources.
I have checked, but there is no further references in that website.
That website, then it is not reliable.
Okay.
So it will fail in that test whether the material is reliable or not. This.
Okay.
So unless something is prepared by university as a part of their research and publication, then that can be cited. But if they have used other resource to compile the resource, then it is better to go to the original and cite that. So they might have prepared that from some other resource.
Yes.
There you have to go and you have to cite that rather than citing study material things. Okay, so all other thing that is told to other students also, that you also take care of. Okay.